Okay, so this is my first official entry. It is October 27th, 2018. Normally I want to talk about my past and growing up, how this situation started and escalated from person to person my entire life since 5 years old. But today, I think, because I'm still sorry, I'm checking my camera battery because it's low and this thing only lasts 30 minutes before it cuts off, so bear with me with that. I'm still trying to figure out the camera and getting used to it, and getting it set up correctly. Normally I want to talk about my past, how this mass worldwide operation starts, and then how it builds outwards from person to person, city to city, until the internet okay, so after that, Santa Monica, let me think about Santa Monica. This time in Santa Monica actually wasn't nearly as bad as it usually is. For example, what happens is I go down to Santa Monica and I go down to Hollywood. They pretend that I'm causing problems because there's signs on my car saying Kevin Perlman Target, worldwide campaign to remove me from society, with therapists making up lame excuses that it's my behavior and I'm somehow drawing people into my life from these signs on my car or the business cards. But of course they leave out the fact that the website and cards didn't exist until 10 years after these endless worldwide mental batterings, and it's been going on since 5 years old, so that's really 30 years or longer than that. So obviously trying to leave out the entire story. So and the fact that every person I meet knows me and is in an angry rage, and then I'm told I'm not supposed to tell them that nothing they've been told is true. Well, that's pretty strange. Nobody would ever tell you that. Anyways, what normally happens is I get to Santa Monica, and the same thing in Hollywood, by the way. And when I get there, everything's fairly normal. For example, people walking down the streets are all wearing normal random clothing, different colors. Up until recently, the parking lots in Santa Monica and everywhere else, all the cars were backwards. Most of the cars are still backwards, but maybe a year ago, if I went to the underground parking lot in Santa Monica, 40% of the cars would be backwards. In the last maybe 4 months, going in those lots, almost all the cars are now forward. So how does human behavior change? For example, if there's no conspiracy and nobody's being notified to do anything, then how does human behavior change all by itself like that? For example, let's say you have a parking lot. And the parking lot has 10,000 parking spots, and 40% of those cars are parked backwards. And then you go to the next month, and those 10,000 cars are all forward except for maybe 15, right? What in the human mind changes that everyone thinks differently all at the same time, unless someone's suggesting that an alien is planting seeds in someone's head to do these things, which I don't think so. It's a conspiracy and internet-based notification tools. So, now, I'll get to Santa Monica, Hollywood. Everyone will appear how they should. except for some people might yell at me or things like that, showing that people know me. They'll be pissed off. I've had Persians yelling at me. One of the lies is something about I don't like Persians, which all seem to stem from Tom Farley, me kissing a black girl around 8 years old at Sunny Skies Day Camp, my family going around telling the world I'm a white supremacist and hate all races, and that interlinks with all sorts of things that were done to me at childhood. For example, around this time I kissed a black girl at Sunny Skies Day Camp. Several other events I can recall. For example, I was in one of these special classes and they were cooking some food, and one of the teachers cracked an egg and an unfertilized bloody chicken came out because they grew their own eggs on the farm there. Right after that, they had a band called Devo. Well, everyone knows Devo, but Devo came. Supposedly one of the kids' parents saying, of course, whip it good. And little did I know, they were sort of trying to send me hidden messages about black people and slavery after kissing a black girl. And that's very strange. Okay, now I never picked up on these things. I never thought about these things until finding out that I was being hunted by the black community my entire life. Why? I don't know. Some of the things off the top of my head, Calabasas High, I would race around with a kid named Damon Riggins, who was a black football player, and we would joke around. He had a Camaro, I had a Trans Am. I was joking around putting a license plate frame, i.e. Z28s, from a Sammy Hagar song, Trans Am. And we were just joking around, kids being kids, right? Well, somehow that translates into racial, and I'm not sure how, because nothing mean, nasty, or racial ever happened. It's just Kevin was joking around with a black football player kid, and Kevin was the wrestler, and so they use that to twist and contort and take out of context that I hate black people, I'm competing with black people, and yada yada yada, and this and that. Okay, the next thing I can recall in Calabasas High is when I was on the wrestling team, they had a black girl sign up to the wrestling team, and the coach instantly said, I want you to practice with Kevin. And we practiced a little, and then she quit, right? Now looking back, she was probably making up lies. I was taking out my anger and rage on black women and this and that, whatever. Well, most people don't think about these things. I didn't think about these things until years later, finding out that the black community was hunting me for some reason and still are in an angry rage about things I can't fathom are being said because I can't fathom is being said because I'm always kept in the dark. It's always the same equation. Kevin's a horrible monster. We have worldwide groups taking turns on him, and then I'm told I'm imagining it. Okay, so what will happen is I'll get to Santa Monica. It'll be perfectly normal after 20 minutes, especially on Colorado Street. It'll go from people wearing random different clothing like people normally do to tons of people wearing the same exact color patterns. For maybe 5 months, for some reason they chose to all wear solid black pants and a solid yellow shirt, which you see change from normal to these patterns within 30 minutes of people told to all come out of all the locals told to come out of their house, and wearing these same color patterns. Sometimes it is pinks, And what makes it really obvious is you might see 100 guys in an hour's time, or maybe even 30 minutes, wearing things like pink pants, right? And generally most men don't wear pink pants, but when all of a sudden you see it all at once, you go, okay, well, you know, maybe once in a while you're going to see a guy wearing pink pants, but they're all at the same time. And then one of their patterns is everyone wearing Adidas with the big Adidas logo, the Adidas stripe, all at the same time. Another one is you'll go there, you'll see nobody with hoods over their head, and 30 minutes later you'll see huge amounts of people putting on hoods over their head. So what is going on? Well, what's going on is everyone in the city is notified this is where Kevin is, and then they all put up their hoods, or people come out of their houses with hoods on, right? Now, why is this being done? Well, it's being done to try to make it look like I'm reckless, I'm careless, I can't focus, they're trying to cause accidents, and one of the big things is my family does not want me driving a car ever, or even leaving my house, which is very strange. So they make up these lies that I'm a reckless driver and I've caused all these accidents and I can't focus and this and that. Hence, back to all the people they've had launching vehicles at me, trying to make me look like I'm a reckless driver. And a lot of times I'll have someone waiting for me with their lights on in a car, or at certain places where they provoke me more, and skaters or people on bicycles will be waiting for me, and they'll be cued to actually try to ride in front of me or cut me off in hopes they can get me to hit a biker or someone on a skateboard. And this is done over and over. And for example, one incident I had was at a 7-Eleven where the cops like to provoke me with these people. I was hanging a right turn, and they know I always hang a right turn there because everything's collected and put in a database to use against me for my patterns of behavior, so they can figure out how to set me up. And so one of the things done to me was one night a guy, he saw that I was going into the right turn lane, so he was behind me and he sped up and wedged himself in between me and the right turn. So even though this accident was on the scale of tops $500 damage to my car and a little black paint on the guy's car, absolutely no damage, right? We're talking minimal bumper taps. Instantly, the police, Officer Sean Dinsey, was working with the auto body shop, Valley Motor Center in Van Nuys, where I was flat out told, and it has been recorded, that a police officer with a Facebook account is coming after me, referring to Officer Sean Dinsey, who, during my last trial with their fabricated allegations, one of the witnesses who claimed I threatened his life, he basically telling him to leave me the fuck alone, and then writing up falsified reports, on the stand flat out said that he was contacted before the event by Officer Sean Dinsey to go after me, right? He flat out admitted it on the stand. Of course, the jury didn't care because it was a tainted jury to begin with. But the point is that all these operations are illegal. Now, generally, cops aren't generally in communication with your auto body shop. And not only this, But the auto shop employees, at any auto shop in the world, but in this case it was Van Nuys Valley Motor Center with a guy named Brian Ushar, flat out tells me what's going on and this cop's hunting me, right? Of course, my lawyer refuses to bring any of that into the case. That's pretty strange. Making sure that anything showing that I'm being hunted by the police is out of the case. And every lawyer was contacted to do the same thing. I was on the phone with hundreds of thousands of lawyers. They were all told not to help me. Okay? Well, that's pretty strange. Because a defense attorney's job is to take your money. And in this case, $15,000 for a misdemeanor is like being handed gold. And he still would not help me, leaving out, making sure that I could not get any of that information to the jury, even though they already knew what was going on. So basically, the entire thing was rigged from day one, right? Showing mass conspiracies to lock me away in jail. Now, I won't go into the details of all the interconnected related things with my father, paying off Victoria Walker to give me toy guns at 29, which they used in the court of me in the privacy of my own home, joking around or using this toy gun and model shoots, which they brought into the courtroom for character. For example, if you were to walk down the street and try to count or keep track of how many people you saw whistling or walked by you whistling, I would probably put a number like once a month, maybe a couple times a month. Well, 10 to 40 times per day and in an obvious way directed at you from stranger after stranger worldwide is pretty damn strange. For example, I would test the waters. I would drive down to Laguna Beach, I would drive down to Oxnard, I would fly to Florida. Every place I've been, these things happen, from the whistling, the foot tapping, the social network mimics, you name it. Just from person to person worldwide. Almost every person I'm in contact with. I go to a coffee shop in Las Vegas, in Wisconsin, you name it, the same exact terror tactics happen. But yet no one is concerned that this is going on. No one is saying this is wrong. Now, if you're the target, that's unfathomable. But you're in the dark. So the question of what they have to hide and what they're covering up what they have to hide and what they're covering up is on a huge scale. It's unheard of. This is one of the largest, or is the largest crime against one person, and across a 40-year period to hunt down, stalk, and kill someone and rid them of the world. So you can only imagine that with the police involved, with every government person I've talked to all trying to cover up these crimes, that this goes straight up to the top somehow. So the question is, who was contacted as a young child, why, through the school systems, with my parents, with the psychology community, to try to label me as crazy or mentally ill and then remove me from society is very strange. And then one of the things that relates is that last month, I wanted to do an experiment and monitor the police scanners and see what's going on behind the scene. And I found out that the LAPD is actually labeling people as mentally ill and putting them on watch lists. So I have all sorts of recordings, and on my website of basically the police scanner saying possible person with mental illness and following them from place to place and things like this because they think they're mentally ill or crazy. And keep in mind that it's not a crime to be crazy, and it's not a crime to be mentally ill, and 90% of people who are mentally ill are harmless, and that's not a crime. That's not the police's job. So the police seem to be working with the psychology community in something that we don't really know about, but watching how defensive the endless psychologists that I've contacted with who refuse to let me tell them about my life worldwide that are involved want this covered up. So, if the psychology community, which is confidential, private information, all of them are trying to set me up. I've had endless death threats from the ones who, or I should say people related and working with the ones that I've gone to, the very few, because I can literally contact thousands of psychologists or psychiatrists, and they were all giving me the same song and dance that they can't help me, or they don't feel that they can help me, and that's unheard of. And if I simply state, look, I just want to go to a psychologist, tell them about my life and unload, every single psychologist in the world would pretty much say, sure, you know, I'm X amount of money per hour, and I'll listen to your life because that's my job, and maybe have some kind of comment or two, right? But yet Kevin Perlman cannot get one to listen to his life, which is strange. One even responsible for throwing me in jail with these setups with my neighbor, Kareen Eshigan, who, when I was telling her about my life, was working with my neighbor in these recent arrests from 2013. Terrence Scroggins telling him to keep provoking me and try to get things I say to use against me, which she was regurgitating indirectly in her sessions, showing that there was a direct link between her and my neighbors and the police trying to set me up, and all my conversations were going to my father's office manager, Lorena Escobar. So, you can see the pattern of communication and behaviors between people in the psychology community, the LAPD and police, NSA, FBI, and worldwide support not wanting me to talk, and that is strange. That is beyond any level of strange. So, what is it? What is it that they started on me at 5 years old, which goes up so high to the top, right? Well, these are questions that they don't want coming out, so much so that smearing my name every single way, shape, and form, that I'm a racist, I'm a white supremacist,